Hello, and welcome to a presentation I like to call the College Basketball Crash Course, otherwise known as Basketball for Dummies. Let's get into it, but first, a giant disclaimer. I do not know everything. Please don't ask me about NIL deals, conference realignments, or the transfer portal because I don't know, nor do I really care. All right, let's just dive right into it. What is the NCAA? Great question. It stands for the National Collegiate Athletic Association. It is the governing body for all student athletes and athletic programs in the United States and one in Canada. Now, in the NCAA, there are different divisions. There are three of them. There is D1, D2, and D3. Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. So D1 is further than divided into football bowl subdivision and football championship subdivision. But I don't care enough about college football to learn the differences. And that's not what we're talking about anyway. So D1s have full scholarships, D2 have partial scholarships, and D3 don't have any scholarships. There are more nuances to the divisions, but that's not the point there. D1 schools need to support at least 7 sports for both men and women, including 2 team sports for each gender, must have teams playing every season. Both men and women must participate in every season and must adhere to the minimum maximum financial aid awards. D1 schools are normally bigger, D3 schools are normally smaller. Currently, there are 361 D1 schools, 292 D2 schools, and 422 D3 schools. We are mostly going to be talking about D1 schools. So the college basketball year begins around October 15th. So prior to the 2013-2014 season, D1 basketball schools were prohibited from practicing prior to the Friday closest to October 15th. So there was a rule change actually in 2013 when the NCAA ruled that men's practices could actually start 2 weeks earlier, so long as teams don't have more than 30 days practice in the 6 weeks before the first regular season game. However, the women's side of NCAA basketball rejected moving the start date. There is something called Midnight Madness, which is a tradition for some schools going around the October 5th start date. So back in 1971, Maryland began a tradition of Midnight Madness where at 12:03 a.m. on October 15th, 1971, their coach invited the public in for their first team run, and lots of fans showed up, and then he made it a tradition for everyone to hang out around midnight closest to October 15th. And then in 1982, Joe B. Hall at Kentucky made it a formal event, this Midnight Madness, with entertainment and invited the students. Now it's called Big Blue Madness, and it's televised and hosts celebrities and stuff. Drake performed in 2014. Another notable one is Kansas hosts Late Night in the Fog, and it was started in 1985 by Larry Brown. As a result of the rule change that we just talked about moving the start date of practices, more schools now opt to celebrate their Midnight Madness later in that 6-week window to accommodate for the women's team as well. The college basketball season. The season normally starts for teams with exhibition games, followed by non-conference games, conference games, and then 1 or 2 tournaments. So exhibition games are a chance for normally smaller schools to play bigger schools and get a good check out of it. Normally the smaller schools are in the state, and since they go and they play these big schools, they get revenue from those games. These games do not count towards a team's record during the season. Now, a non-conference game, as the title suggests, these games are played against schools that are not in their own conference. We'll talk about conferences later. So schools will sometimes schedule these games to play against better teams outside of their conference to give their team more experience before moving on into the conference play. So the conference game, so every school belongs to a conference, and during this period, each school plays against other schools in said conference. Teams with the best record, ? Win their regular season title, which is different than the tournament title. I think the best record is the regular season title. I don't really know. Now, the tournament. So please use the correct pronunciation of tournament. Say it with me. Tournament. Thank you. So schools compete in their own conference tournament. So the conference games, the conference they belong to, they play a tournament with all of the schools in that conference, right? The winner of that tournament, each tournament in the conference will get an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament that plays after the conference tournament, right? You can win the regular season title lose the conference tournament, and still not make it into the NCAA tournament. If you don't make the NCAA tournament, you can still have a chance to play in the National Invitation Tournament known as the NIT. The NCAA tournament is also nicknamed March Madness. That is also a very heavily copyrighted name, so you can't use it literally anywhere. You can call it March Angriness, you can't call it March Madness. So there are 68 teams who compete in this single elimination tournament. I apologize for the cat and her toy. You get into this tournament by either winning your conference tournament, 31 teams receive an automatic bid into the tournament, or you are good and you get an at-large bid. So the seed at which you get placed into the tournament is based on how good you are. Format of the tournament. It is a bracket style. It's a two-sided bracket. We'll look at an example here in a minute. The winner of the tournament will need to win 6 straight games. So the way that the tournament works, we have the first round, and then you have the second round. And then the third round is called the Sweet 16. It's the regional semifinals. And then the next round's called the Elite 8, which is the regional finals. Then you have the Final Four, which is the national semifinals. And then you have the national championship, which is the final game. Selection Sunday is the day of the year where the NCAA bracket is revealed. It's a big deal, in my opinion. Teams find out their fate, they find out what region they're in, they find out what seed they are and who they will play. The lower the seed, the better the team. So you want to have a low seed. You want to be like a single digit. Obviously, overall number 1 is the best team in the nation. Number 1 seed in each region, good. 16 seed, not so good. You get it? The bracket itself is divided into 4 regions. It's the South, the Midwest, the East, and the West. And each region has approximately 16 teams with the exception of the play-in games. And all of those teams are ranked 1 through 16. And the bracket is set up 1v16, 2v15, 3v14, so on and so forth. Now, the play-in games are something that they just added a handful of years ago, and it's called the First Four. And it's literally just like 4 11 seeds and 4 16 seeds play into the tournament. They just expanded it a little bit. They thought about expanding it out a whole nother round, but that would just be too messy and they decided against it. So the First Four was born. So this is the bracket from last year. And you can see all of these different teams. Up top in the blue is the First Four. So if you look at this team right here, the Alabama State St. Francis game, they are both 16 seeds. And the winner of this game, Alabama State, went on right here to play number 1, Auburn. So their 16 seed gets slotted in over there, as opposed to this game, San Diego State, North Carolina, which were both 11 seeds, gets slotted into the bracket here as an 11 seed. Hope that makes sense. The National Invitation Tournament, or the NIT, it actually predates the NCAA tournament, and it was once considered the most prestigious tournament before the big NCAA tournament took off. It consists of teams that failed to make the NCAA tournament, and it was nicknamed the Not Invited Tournament because of that. So the conferences that we talked about before, so some conferences are bigger and some conferences are smaller. Most are aligned by geographic region and school size. So bigger schools in one area of the country kind of go together, and smaller schools in another area of the country go together. But there was some wonky realignment in conferences recently because of money. Don't ask me to explain it because I don't care and I'm annoyed that it happened. So it used to actually be called the Power Five, which were the five big conferences in the United States that had the biggest schools, but one of them folded, so now it's just the Power Four, and those are known as the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the Southeastern Conference, also called the SEC, and the one that folded, rest in peace, the Pac-12. So each of these conferences going forward, we'll send the winner of their tournament to the NCAA tournament. These are the automatic bids I talked about before. So these conferences are the American East. Nope, that says America East. American, Atlantic 10, Atlantic Coast, the ACC, the Atlantic Sun, the ASUN, the Big 10, 12, that says 12, the Big East, the Big Sky, the Big South, the Big 10, the Big West, the Coastal Athletic Association, or the CAA, Conference US, the Horizon League, the Ivy League, the Metro Atlantic Athletic, the MAAC, not to get confused with the Mid-American, the MAC, not to confuse with the Mid-Eastern Athletic, MEAC, the Missouri Valley, Mountain West, the Northeast, Ohio Valley, Patriot League, Southeastern Conference, the SEC, the Southern, the SoCon, Southland, Southwestern Athletics, the SWAC, Summit League, Sun Belt, West Coast, Western Athletic, the WAC, WAC. The teams in the Power Four, these are going to be the big schools in the United States that you hear a lot about because, oh, sorry, I just kicked the cat. Sorry, Sammy girl. So in the ACC, there is Clemson in South Carolina, Duke in North Carolina, University of North Carolina, North Carolina State, Wake Forest in North Carolina, University of Virginia, Georgia Tech, Florida State, University of Miami in Florida, Virginia Tech, Boston College in Massachusetts, Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, Syracuse in New York, Notre Dame in Indiana, Louisville in Kentucky, Southern Methodist University, SMU in Texas, University of California, Berkeley, and Stanford. Now, in the Big Ten, there is the University of Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern in Illinois, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Purdue in Indiana, Rutgers in New Jersey, University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, University of Southern California, USC, University of Washington, and University of Wisconsin. The Big 12, we have the University of Arizona, Arizona State, Baylor in Texas, Brigham Young University in Utah, University of Central Florida, Cincinnati in Ohio, University of Colorado, Houston in Texas, Iowa State, University of Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Christian University, Texas Tech, University of Utah, and West Virginia University. In the SEC, we have Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana State, Mississippi, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt in Tennessee. Now, some of the history of the March Madness tournament, we've got teams with multiple titles. Leading off, the team with the most titles is UCLA. They have 11, but their most recent was in 1995. Next, we have Kentucky, who has 8. Their most recent was in 2012. UNC, University of North Carolina, they have 6, with their most recent being in 2017. UConn, University of Connecticut, has 6, with their most recent in 2024. Duke has 5, most recent in 2015. Indiana has 5, most recent being in 1987. Kansas has 4, with most recent in 2022. Villanova has 3, most recent in 2018. And Florida has 3, with most recent being in 2025. Something very rare with its all number 1 seeds in the Final Four, which means the top 4 teams in the country ranked all number 1, making it into the Final Four, has only happened twice. Once in 2018 with Kansas, North Carolina, UCLA, and Memphis, with Kansas bringing home the title, and in 2025 with Florida, Auburn, Duke, and Houston, with Florida bringing down the title. The beauty of these games, thank you for asking, we have upsets. So obviously, in a perfect world, all of the higher seeded schools would win. But just like I had mentioned, there's only been twice ever in the history that all number 1 seeds have made it into the Final Four. So the beauty of this tournament is the upsets. You could get a classic 8-9 upset where the 9 seed beats the 8. But the upset is when the lower seed beats the higher seed, and it's incredible to watch, and it's so fun. And you can also get the rare, elusive, only happen once, maybe twice, 16 seed beating number 1 seed. Never happens, but that's what's fun about the tournament, is you could come out and you could have a great game and knock off a higher seed. There's buzzer beaters, right? We've only got 20 minutes per half to play. What happens when you're tied and you give the ball to your favorite little sniper and he just chucks up a half court shot when the buzzer goes off and the ball goes in? You make it, you win. It's incredible. It's beautiful. We love to see it. Then we have our underdogs, which same thing as upsets, and you also get Cinderellas. Those kind of go together, where the Cinderella story is, the little tiny team, the 15 seed, the 11 seed, who just make a deep run into the tournament, into the bracket, and everyone loves them. Everyone loves them, and it's incredible. Now, Selection Sunday is in fact March 15th, which the first round's on March 19th and 20th, and the National Championship is on April 6th. We gotta make a bracket between March 15th and March 19th, baby. And the beauty about brackets, you can make them however the hell that you want. I always make one with my favorite team winning it all at first, and then I go back and think logically. And then I like to do a mascot bracket where I look at who I think would win in a mascot fight, who I think would win. And then we normally do colors. Sometimes we see, well, all blue teams win. What happens if all green teams win? It's very interesting. It's very fun. And many people offer like $1 million to someone who can create a perfect bracket, but that's almost statistically impossible. So it's fun. Do I have a winning streak of guessing the correct national champion since 2022? Yes. Am I going to do it again this year? Let's hope. All right, if you've got any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comments or shoot me a text. And that's all. Go sports.